Hello everyone, this is part 2 of me slicing and dicing text files, a single source text file into multiple output text files for Jekyll's blogging systems. So I'm dropping files into a directory as I step through a single file, and right now it's just kind of a proof of concept where on each time I encountered one of these long lines here that I divide my blog posts with, 80 minus signs, a very, detectable parsing character. I output a different file using the Python built-in context manager with open, with a writing just the word foo, and that resulted in these files over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the test file I had created, which I already git committed and pushed. That you can see. I guess it's this one here, right? So I used a slug to control the URL and pattern to put this in here. And so when I left off, as part of the point is here that I'm going to try and get myself back up to where I should be. If you look at my analytics here, not that it's about driving traffic. I do this more for myself than for people out there, except it all blends together in a very meta process because I'm a search engine optimizer. So I just need to generally have a handle on these things. So I'll try and hit some topics that are popular and mainstream and try and boost myself and maybe play off of the success I occasionally get here on my removable finger trick. As you can see, one of my sites is actually a removable finger, and I'll be using that as kind of a beachhead for growing some traffic. But before I do that, I just got to solve this more general problem. Now, it turns out that when I do this, I'm going to want to write the lines from the previous read. So I'm going to be building a variable on each loop representing a page. And it's not even on each loop because I'm reading straight through the lines for line in this opened file on the outside. And on the first time I encounter a slicer, if line equals slicer, let's use the same old conventions I use everywhere, tables and rows, right? So table equals, we reinitialize an empty table each time it encounters one of those lines. And then it's going to, let's see. Oh, yeah. If not I, that if not I belongs in if line equals slicer. So if it's not the first loop, that is where we're going to write out all the lines of the table and reinitialize a table. I'll have to be careful about where my counter is incremented and everything. But I think write is going to become write lines, and it's going to be all the lines it's encountered. Write lines table. Write lines into table. Write lines. Think that through. Don't do too many steps at once. And every time I encounter if line equals slicer, I want to print the entire contents of table up here. We should be able to print the whole table there. And every line that you encounter is going to be appended in outside this loop. Table dot append line. Table is not defined there. Yeah, if not I. And if line, aha, interesting. Yeah. If not I, but outside if line equals slicer. Got to keep these thoughts straight. If not I. Table gets defined. Okay, this is where you really got to think these things through clearly, and I'll probably use a little bit of commenting. And we'll want to simplify again. Forget about all that logic stuff. We'll do one table outside here. And then each time we have a line, we'll append it, and then we'll build this thing up a bit at a time. So you see you've got a list being created with each element of the list being one of the lines of the text file. Now let's do some prints as we go. We'll just print a line. So you can see that happen without printing the table. That's kind of what we did before. This is a good line now. If line equals slicer, we're going to at least encounter one of those. And so now that's a good concept. There's going to be the same output there, but now we can print the table right before we reinitialize the table. And then we can get rid of this print line. Get a little visual differentiation between our tables by putting a blank line before each table. So this is one table, this is a table, this is a table, and you can start to see the visual stuff going on. And get rid of this one. And there should be one table per blog entry, which, see, there is, right? Every time it encounters one of these tokens here, it creates a new table. This is very, very close to what we want. And so here is where we actually want to do this line here. Before we nuke the table. And instead of writing foo, we can write lines, I believe. Let's take a look. Write lines, see? Table. And so whereas before we had just the foos in these things, we should be able to take a look at it. Oh, it's still foo in there. Yeah, because I'm not doing the counter incrementing. I still have that edited out, so we weren't looking at the right counter. Counter equals 0. I'm going to increment the counter. The logical place is when the table is nuked. So that's going to make a file 0, which I don't want. I want it to start at file 1 for right now, so we'll do that. Now if I go back over here, yeah, there's some contents there, right lines. Now I might not want to strip out the line returns. There's usefulness in those line returns here, so I can get rid of this line here. Okay, so let's see what the other things that we can do besides right lines are. There might be something more appropriate. Right lines seems like the right thing. Let's try just a right. No difference. Let's see what a table looks like. Oh, by this time, I don't think it's nuking the table the way it's supposed to. If line equals slicer, each time it encounters a slicer, it's going to print the table. That's what we see here. That's not what we see here. Oh, interesting. We're not seeing anything there. So this is actually not doing its thing, because we should see some tables being printed. If line equals slicer, it's not going to equal slicer anymore because of that edit that I made with stripping off the line return, or not stripping off the line return. So let's turn that into having a line return at the end. This looks like a good time for f strings. Now we've got that back. Okay, that's a little bit better. We should be seeing spaces above. Right table. Right argument has to be a string, not a list, right? So it's right lines. I had it right the first time. But I'm not seeing the space between the table entries. So each time it encounters this, it should print a space above it. And if we print table here, oh, it just has a little bit in there. And it's the bottom entry. So I think it's actually, oh, there's the spaces. How was I not seeing that? So it's doing what it's supposed to. That's really interesting. Although this last table should be the last one here. Oh, see all these entries? I can see why I thought it was not working, and it probably is not working. For I, comma, line, and okay, you know what? I like stripping off the lines, the line returns. I think it was working better. If line equals slicer, right? That just looks so much better. It's doing it right. Those stripped off line returns at the beginning is nice. And then right lines will put it back into the file, except it was putting back in the file and it needs those line returns back. So it's kind of a catch-22, but we can solve that. That's a very solvable problem. Okay, we're going to use a list comprehension to quickly put those line returns back in when it writes the table in. Table.append line, and then we write lines x for x in table, turn that into an f string, and stick that line return back in, and let's see what those text files look like. Much better, right? So I have now sliced and diced into these separate files. Now, they're never really going to need the date at the top, but they are going to need front matter, as they call it. So we're going to skip. It's consistent the way these dates work. I'm going to be chopping off, including that line up there. So I'm going to be chopping off those 3 lines on every file. So we'll do a little pre-processing of the table here, right? So this pre-processing here can go here, table equals that. But we only need from, say, 3 spaces in to the end. And now we'll put the table in here. We'll go look at what that looks like. Yeah, right? I chopped off the top 3 lines, that easy. All right, now for front matter. When we make the table in the first place, that's the easiest place to put in the front matter. So what does front matter look like again? Something like this. I could have done that cleanup over in Vim. Certainly easier, but we'll do this for now. So everything is going to be the same except for the title and the slug. In fact, let's forget about the slug for now. We're just going to use the title. And that is going to be inserted somewhere like where the table is made. Table equals blanket here. Table.append our 3 minus signs. We need a title, and it's got to be unique on each one around. So again, we're going to be using something as a temporary fill-in. It's just going to be an F string with a counter again. Log post, we'll just say post number like that, right? And then layout post goes above it. of these, well, categories blog that's very like this one. So okay, and then this at the bottom here. Oh, yeah, of course, I left this stuff up here. All right. And our front matter is not quite put in there the way it's supposed to be. We've got just categories and that bottom line. This counter probably shouldn't be incremented until underneath of there because we have the good value 1 that we want for the first go around. Oh, all the files are named clear ls-la. Right, so it's just oh yeah, I'm chopping off at the top of the file intentionally, so it's an order of operations thing. So the place where I alter the table, chopping off the top things, I can't really do that there. Oh, think. I can create top stuff and then append it together when the table is created. I'll just append to the top of a list, right? So this is Python writing to the top of a list. So first of all, I'm going to get this out and just reassure myself that everything is working kind of the way I remember it. Yeah, hello world, right? So this is an actual post here. I'll check the 3 because that's the one I've been looking at a lot. Yeah, we are blogging using just a plain old text file, and you can, if we go back to the source file, we are blogging just using a plain old text file, right? So that's that. And that became that. So that looks really good, except for the fact that I need to do some processing of this stuff. This is where we kind of chop the top lines off the table that are not necessary, and then you can add lists together. So I will do an upper matter list. So all this stuff is going to be, top matter. Top equals new list. And each of these are going to be top.appends, and then we're going to add the 2 lists together. We'll show Zinfim. There are key bindings. There are Vim key bindings in Jupyter, but I find that more confusing. Okay, so then table equals this chopped thing here, and then table equals top plus table, because you can add lists together. Now let's go look. It's getting close, right? It's just a line return thing. So the old school way to do that would just be to put a \n at the end of each of these strings, right? Yeah, looking really good, looking really good, looking really good. And slicing and dicing. I'm going to have to do something better about the title. In fact, the title is missing up here. That's actually, I think, needed. Take another quick look at Vim 20 title. Yeah, we need a title. I thought I remembered doing that. Oh, post number. That's title. All right. Let's take a look at that. Let's run that and take a look at it real quick here, and then we'll just wrap up this video as a success. And there's the title. Title post number 3, right? Git commit. Oh no, git add. Everything in this directory. Git commit. Testing, slice and dice. Git push. And you can see these are really simply named 0.md, 1.md. I thought I was avoiding that. In fact, that's not a post, that's a throwaway one. But I should be able to hit any of these files momentarily. And I do believe they're actually going to be just like one. Might be one slash. Might be 1.html. I'm not using the slug system, but I am using that sort of YAML override system. So it'll take a moment for me to have Jekyll pick that up. I would like to see this through to the end. What to double check? cd ... vim config.yaml. This thing here is what's controlling it. So it's going to be 1/ for sure, 1/. Maybe just one. What is this one? It has a slash at the end for this other one in there. So this is just waiting for Jekyll to do its thing. Come on, Jekyll. It's conceivable I did something wrong. Those files are there. Those files are there. There's nothing I did wrong. Git status. Now everything that should be added is added. cd_posts. ls. There's all those files exactly as expected. There's a chance because they're just numbers, they're getting edited out and something is actually potentially going wrong. So I'll do another check here and then we'll put some strings in there for those file names. Try it a little different. So that's where we write out the file names with open. Testing, and then the number, that should do it. Git add everything, git commit, putting string in file name, git push, and so it should be testing / testing1 / testing2 /. Category blog, that was necessary. Make sure that's in there. Am I missing that? Nope, categories, blog, that is definitely in there. Check the files so that they look correct with the top matter. Layout post, title post number 1. Oh, it's going to use the title, not the slug. That's what I was doing wrong. Post number 1. Post number 1 uses the title. Blog. Something wrong, or is it just taking Jekyll a long time? GitHub Jekyll, check for errors. You can use Jekyll build error messages to troubleshoot problems with your GitHub pages. GitHub pages is available. Troubleshooting errors. See them. It can take up to 20 minutes for changes for your site to publish, right? So that's all this is. This is waiting for that. I've seen this before. So often I've had this correct and I'm just like, oh, there it is after a little while. So I'm not going to make you wait. I'm going to check back later and wrap this up and check on my kid. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to subscribe.